racial conflict or anything that negatively impacts your communities, let us know so that we can join forces to make our positions known, letting folks know that we are no longer going to tolerate any of the negativity that's going on in and around us. At this time, I'm going to join forces to make our positions known. Someone's recording my voice. Any of the negativity in and around us. At this time, I'm going to. All right. I think I can stop being recorded now, Cerise. We're going to share some of our program updates, some of the updates from our program managers before we get into our actual discussion for the evening. Raphael, who have you asked to give an update?
Thank you, Dr. Acosta. The first person will be Brenton giving us a legislative update.
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here as always. I want to share my screen to give you some updates about hate crimes legislation that is happening on the state level. I know Senator Scott just referenced, we'll have a follow-up with the issues that are going to be held at the federal level. But just to give everyone a heads up about what is happening downtown at the State House. Is my screen shared?
Yes.
Okay. First and foremost, what we have is, I think probably the most popular bill as of right now, which is H3620, which was filed in the House of Representatives. That bill was filed on January 12th. It was introduced by several members as sponsors and co-sponsors. It was referred to the Judiciary Committee on last week, March 17th. The bill received a favorable report from the committee. So thus now it is ordered for full consideration back to the House of Representatives, and whether they're waiting to schedule some floor debate on that particular bill. There's also a companion bill. It's not necessarily a similar bill, but there's one that is very close to it that was filed in the Senate. That is S14, that was also filed on January 12th. That was referred to the subcommittee, on the Judiciary on March 22nd. And the hearing for that, the first part of the hearing for that was actually held on yesterday morning at 9 o'clock. Testimony was provided. There were several people who were signed up, I think in excess of about 15 individuals representing interests from all across the state of South Carolina, from various communities were signed up. However, because of constraints due to COVID-19 and also due to scheduling constraints, because there was another committee to meet immediately afterwards, they had to suspend that hearing, and they will reconvene at a later date. So once I have some more information about when they will reconvene to talk about that Senate Bill 14, I'll definitely make sure that Raphael is aware of that, so that those who are interested in providing testimony can do so at that time. Just as a quick side note, even though we are still under COVID protocols, the Senate committee and the House committees are allowing a limited number of individuals to actually show up in person. And they're also making accommodations for people to testify or to give testimony virtually as well. So once again, as soon as I hear some more updates on these two particular bills or things of similar nature that come from either one of the chambers, I'll be sure to alert Raphael so we can make that information known to everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brenton. Raphael?
Thank you, Brenton. Cynthia, if you're on, you can go next.
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you all. I'm Cynthia Haddad from the African American Program Division, and currently we're working on planning to release our Second Chance Reentry Resource Guide. That is scheduled to launch on April the 21st. It will be virtual as well as open to the public. This guide is a comprehensive tool that is consolidated with a lot of the South Carolina state agencies, such as the Department of Corrections, South Carolina Probation, Partner and Parole Services, Department of Employment and Workforce, as well as Department of Motor Vehicles. And this guide is to provide the formerly incarcerated individuals a tool that will help them to reacclimate back into society. We're hoping to have a successful launch, and you all will be informed. More details coming surrounding the event, and we hope that you all will be able to participate. So Raphael will give you further details in regards to the planning of it and how to register. Again, this is free and open to the public. And that is what we're currently working on in the African American division. Thank you, Raphael.
Thank you, Cynthia. Yvonne, you can go next with Hispanic Latino Affairs.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ivan Segura. I'm the program manager for the Hispanic Latino Affairs Division. We're very happy for this advisory committee to be forming because the more people know about the agency, the more they ask about not only the Hispanic community for me,
Yvonne, you're breaking up.
but like for everybody. We're glad to have like all these people that can help us reach out to all the minorities in South
Yvonne, we can't hear
Carolina.
you. We cannot hear you.
Now,
You're breaking up.
I don't know if I can.
You have a bad connection, Yvonne.
If we have maybe, I'm gonna try to connect. Yeah, I'm gonna try to connect again.
You're better. You're better.
Is that better now?
You might want to shut off your camera, sir, and your audio should be fine.
Okay, is that better? If this is better?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, what I was saying is that we are very happy that this advisory committee is developing, because when we get requests in the agency, we are always interested in reaching out to all communities. And what we're working on right now in the Hispanic Latino Affairs Division is that we have a COVID-19 statewide group when we call all the service providers that are working with the Latinx community to come to this meeting. And we've been meeting every week for the last almost 10 months. Like every week we get together. We got about 140 service providers that are working with Latinx community, and we talk about like, what can we do next? What's going on in your community? What the community is saying, because I think that's very important, because then we go around and tell all the state agencies that are entrusted with helping this community, this is what you need to do. This is how you help the Latinx community. Also, 2 weeks ago, we launched our action plan for agricultural workers and Latinos in rural South Carolina. And the idea of this is that we are also looking for the minorities within our minority. And we were thinking like, how do we make sure that these populations that they always call hard to reach, how do we tell the state agencies that we have dozens of people that have been working with these communities for years? They know how to reach them. They know what the cultural and barriers are to get there. Let's make sure that they understand how to reach, how to get to that. We are about to get, we're getting right now hundreds of migrant workers coming through. We expect to have about 12,000 on the peak season, and peak season is April through September. So right now in March is when a lot of migrant workers are coming. We also have a lot of H-2A visa workers. Those are the ones coming mostly from Mexico, and they are in a very peculiar situation because they are coming from Mexico to a farm, and they remain on that farm most of the time. So we're working with employers, with the Department of Employment, and other providers to be able to reach these communities. And finally, another good project that we have right now is called PLACE. That stands for Pathways for Latinos to Advance Career and Education. And we are trying to bring all the Latino and young professional, Latino students and young professionals together to communicate, to talk to each other, so we can have them have this sense of belonging, that they feel that they belong to this community, that they have role models, that they have mentors that are willing to help. And in that conversation, I talked to Rafael before when I said, hey, you know, how can we replicate this? How we can make this happen for your community? What ideas you have? So I'm very glad to be here and enjoying. I see a few names in here of people that I work with, and and that's my report for now.
Thank you, Yvonne. I don't think Jerry was able to make it tonight. Hannah, can you update us on Native American Affairs?
Sure. Hi, my name is Hannah Bauer, and I'm the program assistant for the Native American Affairs Division. And mostly in our program, Jerry Francis, the program manager, just started in February. So we're kind of working on restructuring the program, putting together a compendium that will define exactly what our role is. We've also been doing a lot of community outreach, going and having one-on-one meetings with tribal leaders all around the state, just to establish contact again, and listen to them and see what they would like to see from the CMA. We've been putting together PPE to send out to tribes. And Jerry's working on a banner project, which involves disability services to Native communities and all minority communities. He worked at the Commission for the Blind before the CMA. So he is really interested in disability rights for minority communities.
All right. Thank you
So much.
Now, the reason why we've allowed our program managers to at least give you a brief overview this afternoon is because we're trying to make sure we share information across program and across population. We're doing it with all of our advisory boards so that you learn a little bit about each other's culture and the things that are going on in the things that CMA is doing to help in all of these communities. So each quarter when we meet, we will try to have an update, 2-minute update or so from other program areas. So just so that you have some understanding of some of the other things that we do here at the Commission for Minority Affairs. We have one new person that I want to introduce that just started last week. He will be heading our research department. We have Dr. Robert Fenton. Robert, if you could just wave at folks, let them know who you are. Robert's going to be taking us to the next level in our research and things of that nature, which is critical to the Commission for Minority Affairs. Most of what we do is centered around research. And if there's something that you need in particular, just let Raphael know. We will get it in front of Robert, and we will see what we can do to help provide the kind of data that you may need in whether you're doing a presentation or whatever it may be. We're here to provide that service. Raphael, do you want to go into the program update, item 4?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So the first thing I'll talk about is something that me and Dr. Acosta are wanting to do with our advisory committees, which is structuring them so that members have roles. These roles are going to range from co-chair, vice chair, and subcommittee chairs. And subcommittees will focus on certain topic areas such as education, healthcare, policy legislation, community outreach, and cultural awareness. And that will be something I'll be sending out to all of you tonight or tomorrow morning. Our next point will be the theme for AAPI Heritage Month, and that'll be in May. The whole month will be structured around the theme of "This is why I'm proud to be AAPI," and it'll celebrate all the different cultures within our umbrella term, and hopefully we can touch on everyone and make sure it's inclusive. Along with that, I have my banner project coming up in the same month, which is the Asian American and Pacific Islander Youth Civic Engagement Conference. That's tentatively set for May 21st from 9 to 11 a.m. And it's going to be a conference that focuses on 16 to 20-year-old students in South Carolina, teaching them about civic engagement, teach them about why it's important to be politically active, or not necessarily politically active, but active in their government, how to expand your Asian network, as well as giving the high school students kind of a survey of what college is like, especially since a lot of us, if you're here first generation, you don't know. And I think that'd be a great way to introduce CMA, as well as what we do to our high school populations here. Along with that, I'll be sending out some forms about your input for AAPI Heritage Month. We'll also be doing nominations for awards that we're finalizing that form soon. And they will recognize people like business leaders, community activists, and that'll be sent out to you all tomorrow as well, or whenever the form is finished. Next will be translation services. This is something that's really integral for our program area, with it being so many languages within the Asian American Pacific Islander term. If you know any translation services that will do it pro bono or for very cheap, that's what we're looking for first before we spend a lot of money doing these, especially because some of these press releases can be longer than 2 pages, or these documents can be a lot as well. Lastly, since we last met, I've been gathering resources on the AAPI population within South Carolina, like businesses, state organizations, national organizations, and even collegiate organizations, as well as business resources. Originally, our database, when I first started, only had under 10 businesses, and now I've accumulated over 60 within the past couple of weeks. Additionally, I looked into health data provided by the behavioral risk factor surveys, and what we found was that Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders didn't really respond to the uptake in the flu and pneumococcal vaccines. And that raised questions on how are AAPI people in South Carolina looking at the COVID vaccine. What are their questions? What are their concerns? So Brenton was able to help me and the other program managers connect with Prisma Health, and we're working with community leaders to establish town halls where we can talk to these people, we can talk to people who are concerned, who have questions, and find out how we can work with them to make sure that we stop the spread of COVID-19. Lastly, we have a surplus of masks and gloves at the office, so if you need any, please let me know, and I'll make sure I can get it out to you. But that's all I have, Dr. Costa.
All right, very good. And I want to get some feedback from our board members. How do you feel about organizing or serving in a certain capacity on this advisory council, like co-chair or whatever? The statute says that the executive director, I'm supposed to chair all of the advisory committees, and there are 4 of them. And I want to know how you feel about taking on some of the responsibilities to co-chair or even to head a committee to talk about major issues that we need to focus on. Let me hear from some of you on your ideas on how we can best serve your communities.
What are some of the committees that and their responsibilities?
Well, we're going to examine that. I know one will probably be issues surrounding anything from hate crimes, education, healthcare, any of those issues. We will have a committee dealing with issues. We will also probably have a committee dealing with cultural things. How do we go about preserving culture? What process do we need to use to make sure that everyone's represented?
Is the issues committee basically a legislative liaison? Because, you know, right now, South Carolina, we're working on the hate crime bill in the State House.
Right. You would be a community activist, because you would be the person we would send to the State House to voice the position of this council, of this board. And there's nothing wrong with citizens going to voice their concerns, just like Brenton mentioned that they're opening up now for folks to come in and participate in committee hearings and what have you. That is a good responsibility for a legislative committee or policy committee. You'll be monitoring legislation just like we are and come up with a strategy on how we're going to get something passed or how to kill it, one way or the other. So that's exactly what the policy committee would look like. And I think a lot of people would be interested in that because we are dealing with some very controversial and very sensitive issues right now.
Well, let me add, if I may, here.
Yes.
And I guess most of us will probably wait until we see the list of committees and mission of different committees to chime in to see what we can help. But before that, if I may offer my general thoughts, I believe most of, if not all, probably all of us on this committee are here for a mission, are here for services. I can definitely say for myself, I'm definitely well make myself available whenever there's a need, when there's a responsibility that we can share, we can take up. I'm ready. And again, this is my purpose, my commitment coming on this committee. I believe everybody else will join me doing the same.
Very good. Well, Raphael will send out a list of those committees and the responsibilities or duties, mission of these different subcommittees, and it'll give you time to think about it and how you could best contribute to moving the needle as we work to represent all of our communities. So you should be getting that within the next week or so, and you'll have time to think about it before our next meeting. We're going to talk a little bit about the racism and discrimination. The situation that took place in Atlanta should never have happened. And it's a situation that appears to have very little attention. It sounds, even from the comments, I believe, made by either the police chief or someone who said that the guy was just having a bad day. Really, he was having a bad day, and for him to be the chief of police to make that kind of comment and still have his job is just unheard of. I want to hear from all of you. What would you like to see as far as addressing the issues surrounding racism and discrimination? Because I believe we need to get the communication, or we need to turn up the volume in this discussion. I think there needs to be more dialogue, and the tough questions will have to be asked and answered. And I think the Commission for Minority Affairs, we're in the best position to develop that kind of strategy or that kind of platform for discussion for the state of South Carolina. We should be the drivers because we're the most diverse organization in the state. So therefore, your input's going to be critical as we address racism in South Carolina, discrimination in South Carolina. We received a call this morning from an Asian couple who were being discriminated against in an apartment complex. They were told that they were making too much noise. They could not put certain things in their yards. And these are homes that these folks own. They could not do this, they could not do that, but everyone else could have. And I turned it over to Human Affairs because they are the ones who deal primarily, their attorneys specialize in discrimination cases. But when we need to start a dialogue at the commission so that we can educate the public, educate our legislators, educate our state agency on what racism and discrimination, what it looks like. And some of them don't understand, a lot of folks don't really understand that certain things that they say are racist. They say it because they're used to saying it, or they are saying it because it's accepted. What are we going to accept? Nothing that's going to go against who we are. Nothing that's going to speak negatively about who we are. So I want to hear from you all while we have Senator Scott's folks on the phone, because I know that he wants to continue this dialogue. I spoke with him over the weekend and we talked some about it, and he is really serious about engaging the Asian population to try and come up with some reasonable solutions on how we can rid this state of such behavior for anyone of color. So let me hear from you all so that we can prepare and we can think about how we want to develop a platform that we could share and educate people about these kinds of problems.
Dolores, it's Nancy. Yes, ma'am. Working in the community college, I have seen over the years that we have more children of diversity coming in. And coming from where I come from, parents who come in here would usually tell their kids just to flow with the river, flow with the motion, and just get through school. So seeing that we have a whole lot more of the younger minorities in the community college, which is going to be like the forefront of education for this level or minority group, I think it is important for us to make them feel that they're part of a group, number one, and then start education early on, because once they get done with college, they're going to be the adults who would just be quiet and not respond appropriately and allow things to happen to them just because they don't want to mud the water or create some issues. So I'm not exactly sure how it is, but community colleges are thriving right now. And I have seen a lot of students coming in from a variety of diversified groups. And I was just thinking about that if we want to start with the younger ones, then they will help educate their parents with what is proper and what is not proper.
I agree. I think the younger we can, I think that whatever solution we identify, we have to start with the youth, because if they are conditioned to speak up for what's right and for what's wrong, they will grow up as adults who will speak up for what's right and what's wrong. The silence is deadly. The silence destroys them, because once a child is silenced, they hold it inside and they just keep it there as adults, and they never share their thoughts, which creates many issues. So that is definitely something that we want to look at. How can we assure our young people that they too have a voice? And it's okay to voice your concerns. Anybody else with a comment regarding that? I think that's a good approach, starting with the young people.
I definitely would love to say something, because through the years, I've been in the United States for almost 40 years. Through the years, I have seen a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Asian American, of course, in our culture, we were taught to be low key, to keep your head down, and right. So hopefully the trouble will not find us. And that things as being, deep rooted in the Asian culture. Right. And unfortunately, that one still lasts till today. What I think we need to do is most important is for the awareness, to let people know this is no longer a virtue. When we were called we are model minority, it is actually at the price of our blood and our dignity, and need to change that mindset. So because United States is not like a dictatorship or like an authoritarian country. Keep it quiet, doesn't get things done. You more work in other the community, but in the United States, it is a democratic society. If you don't speak up, people are gonna ignore you.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's the things I think we should flex our muscle to let people know we are no longer just be quiet and take it. And how to flex our muscle. I think the United Chinese Association and try have a candlelight, the parade, and to make our stand for last Saturday. However, due to that, things happened on Tuesday. They organized on Wednesday, and to apply for a permit. Then of course they were told the permit process take about 2 weeks. So therefore, there's nothing can be done. So that just made me think about the Black, the Lives Matters. They took on the street immediately. So there got to be a way for us to get organized, and so we can take our issue at hand and demonstrate and show it off to the public. If we don't do that, if we just keep on among ourselves complaining to ourselves, nothing is going to change. So I first, we recommend us to have an organization to find out what is the way that we can flex our muscle to let people know how can we respond to the ongoing issue immediately, not instead of waiting for 2 weeks for demonstration, and they will be too late. So that's one thing. We need to find a way. Hopefully, the council can help us to get that, to get a special channel. So when we organize a protest, we can happen right away. This is number one. Second, I really do think we need the networking. Right now, I'm so glad we have this advisory committee. I have checked about everybody's background. It seems like we have Indian community, we have Vietnamese community, but I don't see any. I don't know. Maybe I missed that. Maybe somebody from Thailand. I know they have the association. How about Korean association? Laos. So we really need to have networking to get everybody under one umbrella. So if something happens, we can mobilize immediately. Because when this thing happened, I'm thinking about to reach out to other community. I don't even know how to begin. So I think this is a great start, but that's not enough. We really need to take this time to reach out to all the community. At least we need to establish a database. And so, we can mobilize to every organizations, the president or the chairman or chairwoman, we can reach it out to the immediately to mobilize. So we need to start out the database. And I'm sorry, you can tell I'm a little bit sensitive to this issue because I mentioned I've been here for too long, and I'm really tired to be considered a model minority and be swept under the rug. We need to do something, and we need united and make something happen. And so that's the another things I want to mention. We should not only stay within this group. We need to have more dialogue between other different minority groups like the Latino community, like African, the community. I'm very, very appreciative the Dolores. You arrange everybody coming here to talk today. I think that's important. Not only is that, we also hopefully we can talk to their advisory committee member. We will join meeting because we are facing the same thing.
Yes.
When injustices happen, we all suffer. When they attack one of our community, they attack us all. So we really, really need to be united as one voice and stand as one. And so hopefully we can make the mainstream society know this is the group we are also need to be treated fairly and justly. So that's my recommendation.
Well, I appreciate your recommendation, and I agree with you wholeheartedly because I think that together we can be a force. I think that together we can stand strong. The more we learn about each other, the better we'll understand, and therefore we will be able to walk together, fight together, and do whatever what we need to do to receive the kind of respect that we are all due. And it is going to take all of us. And this agency, because we deal with primarily ethnic minorities, it is critical for us to learn to work together. It is critical. And we should plan on, just like you recommended, having a consolidated meeting where we all discuss the issues, because I guarantee you we're all going to have similar issues to talk about. So that is definitely in the works. We are going to look at having a platform with all 4 of our program areas, all of the groups that we represent. We need to hear from people. We need to come up with a strategy on how we're going to address situations before it gets to the point like it was in Atlanta. We don't need to see any more bloodshed. We don't need to see any more bloodshed. We are all humans, and we want to be treated the same way. So therefore, you are on point, and we will definitely work on a plan with your help. All of our advisory board members will have some say in what this plan will look like. And we may need to have a joint brainstorming session where we come up with some action items for us to move forward and educating people and making sure that our concerns are heard loud and clear, and the message is clear that enough is enough, and we're not going to stand by and take it anymore. We can do this together without violence, but we're not going to allow violence to destroy ours either. Anybody else with concerns, comments?
Hi, I have a quick comment. I think Miss Nancy was talking about like the younger generations, reaching out to them first. In regards to that issue, I guess, considering that I'm a younger member in here, I have personally gone through discrimination when moving here in elementary school. Obviously, when that happened, you don't know that it's happening and you don't know what to do. So, and then going through middle school, I had the same issue again. And that instead of happening in amongst students or my classmates, it was amongst the teacher to me or a coach to me. And obviously that was the lowest point of my life. I didn't know what to do. And Mr. Chow was really adamant about, reaching it to the committee board, reaching it to the board, like Lexington District Board, reporting it. But as a student at that stage, you don't really want to face that issue because, like you said, the being the model minority, you don't want, because you don't want to sort of provoke something even more. So I think, to me, obviously going through college, a lot of students are very active and they're not scared of anything. So working amongst colleges, especially with all these colleges, we have club and organizations. For example, I'm in the Taiwanese Student Association. When this attack because of COVID through Asians were being attacked, the students were very active. Social media really reached out to the public, especially now with technology being so advanced. Students were all gathering together, Vietnamese Student Association, Taiwanese Student Association, Korean Student Association, all these started, working hand in hand, creating fundraisers, change.org, that organization that people can go, sign petitions. But I think not only college can help do that, but also having this committee working with each individual board, because when you have parents that are immigrants themselves and don't know, they all have broken English, they don't know who to reach out for. They feel hopeless that their child is in this situation, but they don't know what to do and they don't want to make it worse for their child. So I think having this safe zone, I think, is what would best work for even elementary school. I mean, kids, they don't know what to say, but they do know that they can tell their parent, and their parent can make change happen by having a safe place that they can go through. And I think this is something that this group and committee can do, is to help let these parents know you are not alone, we are all here together, and that you have a safe place to voice your concerns and let us help you make a change. That's just something that I wanted to comment on.
That's very good, and I appreciate your comments, because you have brought up some very critical points. Children are afraid, and they want someone to be their champion, someone who they can call and say, "This is happening to me. Can you help me?" And that's where I want CMA to go. We need to get to that place so that if a parent calls us and says that their child is being bullied or being mistreated in school or discriminated against in school, or we want to be that voice collectively. All of our groups have to collectively attack the issue. Not one, all working together. We have to make a sound that's loud enough to get everyone's attention. And young people are very good at being messengers. Once we help them to craft the message, it will go. As long as there's technology, it will go. So we're going to intentionally work on on ways to address certain issues, and we're going to make sure that it gets out into the hands of the right people to help share that message. And we will be looking towards, matter of fact, I think Raphael and several of my millennials are looking at working with college students to be messengers, to help us get the message to folks, because whenever we have young people shying away from the things that they want to say, that's a part of the formula for disaster. We have to let folks know it's okay to say what's on your mind. It's okay to defend yourself. It is okay to tell someone, I don't like the comment that you just made, without feeling that they're going to be scrutinized even more from the people around them. Very good points, and we are definitely going to address those points. Raj?
I'm going to just jump in here. I had to leave in a short time. I have another Zoom meeting, and back-to-back 3 meetings in one evening. Thanks, everybody. I think I'm hearing some good feedback on what people are sharing. And one suggestion I have, I think it's good to have a co-chair for you for each area of their own community, so they have a pulse of the community, so they can bring much more feedback to you. So it's a good idea to have somebody from the Asia Pacific Islander community to co-chair with you, so they can bring you more realistic feedback from the community of different groups. The second thought I have, how we want to be more positively reflect the situation. I know very, very small percentage of those people who have this hate situation against anybody.
Right.
It's not the majority of the Americans, very, very small percentage. So we want to make it like it's a countrywide, nationwide, everybody's the problem. We only have very few people do these things. So we need to keep that in mind. And also, as Elaine mentioned that, university campuses, about almost 75% of the Asian community, okay? Asians are almost 80% of the total international student population is Asian. So only 20% come from the rest of the world. So those are the big hubs of Asian community on the campuses. And also I saw today USC had their own seminar on educating people. I know, so it has to also come from more from the American native born, people that would speak more against it rather than us defending our situation.
Sure.
Like Mayor Benjamin has put out a statement, and the USC president have put out a statement. So different ones in the positions where they can say, hey, we're not this, this is not our country. We need to make sure that we respect everybody and honor everybody. So I think it has to come from others than ourselves, okay?
Sure.
So we don't have to necessarily completely fight for these things, because we can do our part in trying to preserve, our rights here as American citizens.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, we need to have more of the locals.
Sure.
Who are to come up front and then speak for us. This is not who we are as a country. So I think there are a lot of ways to go at it. I think we want to walk carefully in this process, so we don't cause any more things than we want to cause in this, what we want to accomplish.
Sure. I understand.
And I do want to say one more thing. We're going to pull together the International Festival, June 5 and 6. So that will be a great majority. Again, the Asian community come together, but we have 100 countries to come together. So keep that on your calendar. I will be there for 10 more minutes, then I have to go. Thanks to everybody. By the way, I was just going to mention one more thing. I think Jae-hoon is here from Korean community. And I know I saw Ling Wang's name. And Ling Wang is part of the Chinese Association, a number of others. So we do have, I think tonight, Korean and also the Chinese community here.
Very good.
China Association, yeah.
Very good. Very good. And
I see Lin Wang there on the screen. Hi, Lin.
A representation from all the different groups on this particular board, because it's going to be important to hear from all the different cultures to help us understand who we're working with and what we need to do to make sure that we're representing all and not just any particular group, but all collectively. Any other comments on how we?
Dr. DaCosta, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you now.
This is Alyssa Richardson from Senator Scott's office, and I'll be very brief. I just want to thank y'all for letting us listen in, and myself and my colleague, I'm driving, but my colleague is taking notes, and this collaboration that y'all have been describing is just so crucial. A little bit about me, I'm a Black woman from South Carolina, from Dillon specifically, and the point that was made right before me about this collaboration between the African American community and the Asian community is so important. And that's why Senator Scott, I believe, wanted to jump on this call a little earlier. It's what happened in Georgia is something that shouldn't happen anywhere. And my background is as a civil rights prosecutor for the Department of Justice. And I just want to leave you with just this one thought. The Department of Justice prosecutes hate crimes. It's what we do as civil rights prosecutors. But if you go and look at the statistics for those prosecutions, successful prosecutions over the past few years, you'll see about somewhere around the number of 40 or so per year. We all know the number of hate crimes that are happening, not even being reported, it greatly exceeds that. I believe the number of hate crimes across the country, both federal and state, that have been prosecuted is somewhere around 7,000. What that tells me is that if DOJ on the federal level is only prosecuting about 40 out of 7,000 that we know about, that's less than 1%, right? That tells me that what the gentleman spoke about earlier, the states having their hate crime statutes, that's so important. And so that is something that is so encouraging to us that South Carolina is in that process. The last thing I'll say is Senator Scott has been supportive of legislation, anti-lynching bill that he was able to lead on and pass twice in the Senate. We weren't able to get the House to vote on it last Congress, but I'll land the plane here. We're just so very excited to be partners with you all. You all already have this amazing coalition of so many different interests, but the interests are all pushing in the same direction. Please use me, please use Senator Scott as a resource. I know you guys can't see my face. I did not actually know this was a Zoom, so I apologize for calling in. But my email address is Alyssa, ALYSSA_Richardson @scott.senate.gov. We want to be as helpful as we can be wherever we can be. Thank y'all so much for putting this together and letting us listen in.
Thank you so much, and we will be in touch. All right. Any other comments before we wrap it up or feedback?
Hi, I have some comments here.
Okay.
Yeah, my name's Lynn. Hi. I know that, hi everybody. What happened in Atlanta, Georgia, I think is a tragedy. And then more than that, is a wake-up call. Mm-hmm. As many of our colleagues here has said that, we've been quiet for such a long time. Sometimes we are silenced. Sometimes we just keep quiet about ourselves. So I think this is a time to start, and then it's time for action. And then we may talk about how to improve ourselves to engage more in the society. And then we need to do it now, right now. So there are many, many things that we could do. Because previously we are behind. Now, the good thing is there are many things we can pick up today and do it. And then I myself volunteered in the school district. And then if possible, I can maybe I can run a small lecture regarding the Asian culture, Asian history, and then my understanding towards the Asian American, where we come from, what we stand for. So I think that all the people in our community, we need to begin to do something. So to improve the situation, we can wait, and then and then we can initiate the thing. It's a time for a grassroots movement, and we need to take that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your comments. And anyone else?
Hi, this is Melanie. How are you doing? Thank you so much, Dolores, for having this meeting. I think Raphael too for having this meeting. It's actually pretty amazing that we had Tim Scott and different perspectives. And my heart goes out to Ellie. Ellie, I know what you're feeling as a mom, as an educator. I have the same conversations with my children, actually. So in any case, here's what I'd like to see. And I was about to put this in chat for the sake of time, is that one, I would really like a way for us to have a local reporting sort of a platform, just like in many universities, they have a place at the, like equal opportunity programs. You can put in an incident, and and I know that we already have something like this. People report to you guys, if there's discrimination with housing or something like that. But I think we also need to have data on microaggressions.
Sure.
Right, on microaggressions as well. And this is because, we need mental health support.
Yes.
For all of the minorities. We know from research in the African American community, in Latinx communities, in Asian communities, that there's it's a risk factor. Stress is a risk factor. So you do have higher incidence of heart disease and all those negative outcomes because of stress coming from racial incidents of hate. So, this is what I would like, a way to report easily, so we have a voice.
Okay.
Easy, a way for us to have, to talk about these real, feelings about these, these psychological trauma, especially if it's chronic, because when you are a minority, it's chronic. Lots of evidence from the African American community and other and the Native American community. Yeah, so when you and it's really interesting how you're talking about like not being seen. Partly because we don't want to be seen in terms of a lot of people in the Asian community. It's like, we're just going to work hard and we're just going to like ignore it, right? But sometimes it can't be ignored, right? And I think it's best for us to think of ourselves as statistically significant.
Absolutely.
Everybody is statistically significant, regardless of the fact that regardless that you're like 0.05% of the population or 0.1% of the population. And so I think there needs to be a shift in how we think about ourselves. And so what does that mean? As an educator myself, I would love to talk to young people. And yes, you could have anti-bullying campaigns, but we also need to talk about the parents who are coming here, right, the immigrant parents who are coming here, to talk about the potential racism, the potential bullying that children can actually experience. And they, children would love to talk to their parents about this, but because of the cultural difference of being Asian American versus Asian, that chasm sometimes is profound. It's real. And sometimes, you don't want to bother your parents about this. So what can we do to support children with mental health? Not just for the AAPI community, I'm going to say, like for all of the minorities. I've seen this in elementary schools, in middle school. Oh my goodness, middle school is like the worst for what I could see. And how to navigate these spaces when you feel both foreign and invisible at the same time. It's like, it's amazing. And the other thing that I would like to talk about, and I know I'm taking a lot of time, is that this intersectionality sometimes with women minorities, and how women minorities are considered exotic and sexualized. And so that's another part that I maybe, like a subset of what's going on, because a lot of the microaggressions that minority women face is, is sexual in nature. And, that directly actually correlates with what happened in Atlanta. So 3 things, a way to report local, because we want to know statistics, numbers in the state. 2, a way to have services. So I actually talked to, I work in the psych department. And so I was speaking with some people about, like, are there any services for specifically for Asian American and Pacific Islander groups, like, mental health services in the state? And no, there really isn't a specialized thing. And so maybe we should think about that, support groups, parenting groups, and something just to talk about that, the common experiences and what's also unique. So, just seeing us, I think, is really important, right? To be statistically significant, I think, is really important. And I echo all of the concerns from everybody on the board, but I really would like this to see action of, because, roll this out quickly, because as you know, when, the news cycle is so fast that people will probably forget about this, like, right away. So let me just say, this rise in anti-Asian hate or anti-minority hate has been here for a while. Yes. I got harassed on campus like 4 years ago. I was just like, oh, this is like, what is going on? But so, but it's something that's here, it's increasing, but we need to keep up with, talking about it, but also some actions so we can actually help people, who wants to talk about these experiences.
Absolutely.
Right. So those are the 3 things. I think I said 3 things, but sorry, Dolores, I just keep ranting on and on.
We're recording it, so we'll be able to write it all out and share it with all of you, because you are absolutely right. We do need action yesterday. We've talked enough over the years. Now it's time to come up with an action plan, a strategy. How are we going to address? How are we going to resolve some of these issues? So we may be calling another meeting before the quarter, because action means we need to do something now. We're going to take what we've discussed today, transcribe it, share the notes with all of you, and we're going to set up another conversation so that we can look at action items that we need to implement, whether it's in our elementary or middle school, high school, college level, in the workplace, housing, wherever we need to make our concerns known, then we need to act on it. We need to get moving on that right away. I agree. Enough is enough. I've waited out. And I'm tired. I'm tired of hearing about the violence. I'm tired of hearing about, and sometimes you wait for your elected officials to respond, but, sometimes they're more concerned about being elected than dealing with issues, so that's why as a people, we have to make sure to keep the issues in front of them. And there are some things that we can do ourselves as a community, as a people, to make sure that we are not an invisible statistic, but we are human beings and want to be treated accordingly. Any other comments before we close out?
A very quick one. Definitely, I am for another meeting before the next quarterly meeting. I think the timing is very important. I definitely see a great deal of great ideas from all the members today. I definitely have my ideas I would love to add on, but I believe everybody is ready to work on this tough issue. And be sure the racial hate crime and the racial discrimination It's part of American history. It won't be gone next year. So we have to be very much committed and to make lives better for everybody.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to transcribe this recording, get you all the minutes, and we're going to schedule another Zoom within the next month or so that we can start an action plan. And if it's going to be a discussion surrounding racism and discrimination, we will include all of our groups. It will be a consolidated meeting because I think we need to hear from everybody and come up with an action plan that will be implemented in all of our communities. That way we'll find out that we have more in common than we have things that are different, especially when it comes to those particular issues. Is everyone good with that? We will get the minutes to you, the notes to you. We will set another date and we will have a consolidated meeting between all of our program areas. We will have Asians, African Americans, Native Americans, Hispanic, Latinos, all together on one platform, talking about this critical issue that I think it is time for us to move on this. And it may be a situation where I can get some other professionals involved in the discussion on how to address these issues. And we move forward. Okay? All right. You all have been great this afternoon. We thank you so much. And we will certainly be in touch within the next few weeks. We'll give Raphael a week or two to get the notes typed up and get it to you. And then we'll set another date, because we're going to also share some of the same things with our other program areas. I think it's time for us to have that consolidated meeting between all of the program areas. I wish that we could meet in person, because it's so much better to meet in person. We can talk, look at each other's faces. Unfortunately, COVID has just slowed that down, but I'm thinking by the end of the summer, we will be able to have a meeting, a face-to-face meeting. That's the plan anyway. You all enjoy the weekend, and we will definitely be in touch.
Thank you. Have a
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.